Hello. Today we will look into the text classification. We will look into how do we actually organize the document by classifying them or by categorizing them. This problem exists a long time ago in which we have a large collection of non-labeled document. So the problem is how do we actually label them, store them, and then later on we retrieve the exact document based on the query that we have posted. So for text classification, it allows us to search for document based on a subject or a topic. So we group the document by common topics, and these topics will have a meaningful label. And then each label group is also called a class. So text classification actually trying to associate the document with the classes. And if we are doing text categorization, classes are referred to as categories. So if we do text classification, we are dealing with classes. And if we are dealing with text categorization, we are dealing with categories. So both are the same. So they belong to supervised tasks. And there is another related problem in which we partition the document into subsets, but there is no labels. So they are grouped into clusters, and this is what we call clustering process. Since we do not use any label, we consider clustering as unsupervised tasks in which we group the document based on the content. So in text classification, the main objective is to organize the information that we have, and this is useful for large engineering company in which they have thousands of documents produced every year. So in order to organize this information, they should have a cluster of information or classes or categories of information. So when we trying to retrieve certain document, it is easier for us to find the right document in order to make informed decision. So how do we do the text classification? We use machine learning. So machine learning is actually algorithms that learn patterns in the data. So this pattern learn allows us to make prediction relative to the new data. So we have a few type of learning algorithm. So it depends on what type of data that we have. So we have supervised learning, unsupervised learning, semi-supervised learning. So in supervised learning, training data provided as input, and we will have labels or classes for the input document. In comparison, unsupervised learning, there is no training data. So what do we need to do is we need to cluster or group them based on the content of the document. So example of machine learning algorithm that we can use include neural network models, independent component analysis, and clustering. And finally, we have semi-supervised learning, in which we train the algorithm to learn a small set of data, and this small set of data will have a label, and then we will combine this data with larger amount of unlabeled data. So we have a combination of label and unlabeled data. So to define the text classification problem, we can define this classifier as follows. So we have D as a collection of document, and we have C as the number of classes that we have. So in this formula, we have up to L number of classes, and we also have a binary function. This is when you have binary classification in which we only have two classes. So for this binary function, we will map the document with the classes if that document belong to that particular class. So in here we are saying that we will assign each pair of the document J and also the class P, in which document J belong to the document, and then the class P belong to the classes, and the value will be 1 if DJ is a member of class CP, otherwise 0. So for high accuracy, we use supervised algorithm in which we will train the algorithm using label data. We have two type of supervised algorithm: multi-label, one or more labels are assigned to each document, or single label, in which a single class is assigned to each document. For instance, for binary classification in which we have only two main classes, so in this example we have spam or non-spam email. For multi-class classification in which we have more than two classes that we can assign to a single item here. So in this case, we assign dog to this image. And then the last one is multi-label classification in which we can assign more than one class at one time to this photo. So for example, in this photo, we assign cat and bird to be the label for this image. And for the classification function f, um, this is defined as binary function of document class pair in which you could have 1 or 0 if the document J belong to class P. This function also can be modified to compute the degree of membership of document J in the class P. Okay, for example, like this membership degree here. This is the classical set theory in which we can have 0 or 1. So if we have more than 1.8 meter, so we consider them as tall. Less than 1.8, it will be not tall, so 0 and 1. But if we use the fuzzy set theory, there is a membership degree here, so we have a range here. So for not tall, we have this area, and then for the tall is around this area, and we have a degree of membership here in this range for the not tall and also the tall categories. Okay, for the unsupervised algorithm, we have clustering and also naive text classification in solving the problem of organizing our document. So since we have unsupervised algorithm, we do not need any label. So we will use the content of the document to group them. So for the clustering, we have partitional clustering, and the other one is agglomerative clustering. And for the partitional clustering, we have two types again. So in this lecture, we will cover k-means clustering and also bisecting k-means clustering. And then for the agglomerative clustering, which is also known as hierarchical clustering, will have three types depending on the distance method that we use. They are called single link, complete link, and average link. And for the naive text classification, we will have a vector model. So this one, we will classify the document based on the distance that we apply to the vector model. So vector model is used to represent the document and also the query that we have. And then for the supervised text classification algorithm, we have a few of them. So we have decision tree, nearest neighbor, relevant feedback, naive bias, support vector machine, and ensemble technique. So we have the decision tree. For decision tree, we have the k nearest neighbor or weighted k nearest neighbor. And for the relevant feedback, we have the Rokyo. Rokyo we have studied in, I believe, in lecture 6. And we have naive Bayes. And we have support vector machine for multiple classes. And also support vector machine for multiple kernels. And finally, the ensemble, we have two types, stacking and boosting.